Elon Musk is now planning the next move with the Department of Government Efficiency. And this will have far-reaching consequences for Bitcoin and the global financial markets. After Donald Trump kicked Zelensky out of the White House because Zelensky is not ready for peace, Elon Musk is now saying that he will investigate here in Ukraine and will closely look at where money is being wasted and where funds are currently being squandered. It looks like after the Federal Reserve, after Fort Knox, after USAID, the next one on the chopping block is here. The Ukraine and all the war events in the Ukraine. As I said, this will have far-reaching consequences for the entire financial markets. There is only one topic of conversation right now, and that is the conversation between Donald Trump and Zelensky. We're mainly looking at the parts that are relevant for Bitcoin and the entire crypto market. Additionally, something really big is happening at BlackRock, and we can see that they want to integrate 1 to 2% of their Bitcoin ETF allocations into the TFZ models or model portfolios. This means there's still a massive demand for Bitcoin ETFs worth several billion, because it simply gives even more investors the opportunity here. You can buy BlackRock ETFs here through various vehicles. This is a massive step and is currently being really hyped by the Bitcoin community. But before we get into BlackRock, we really need to take a look at the whole situation here. With Donald Trump, Vance, Zelensky, and Elon Musk, what's going on here right now? Because we've been seeing one quake after another happening here, from Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. And now it looks like the next quake is about to explode. Some of you might have already seen the viral clips here. But now let's take another look here. The most important things, the most important statements here from Trump and Zelensky. And then we'll take a look at what impact this has on Bitcoin and the global financial markets.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I answer?
No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President.
So Trump is saying here that Ukraine is in very big trouble. Zelensky agrees and says, yeah, I know we're in big trouble. Trump then says, hey, you're not going to win this thing. And that's really interesting because we're also seeing that the whole war machine has a huge impact on the global financial markets. I mean, every time there are uncertainties here, for example, when people know, okay, there are disputes, there's some potential for conflict. I mean, in the long term, you could partly say that things are good again because then money will be printed and so on, because the war machine is often a good money printing machine. And then money gets printed endlessly, which drives up risk assets because the dollar just keeps depreciating. But we see that Donald Trump now wants to strengthen the dollar. And accordingly, he can't send as much funding to Ukraine anymore. He also says here that Biden was really dumb, sending all this funding to Ukraine all the time. The EU and Germany, they just keep going, they just keep sending their aid package to Ukraine. But Donald Trump makes it very clear in this meeting that he does not want any more financial packages. He doesn't want to just blindly send money to Ukraine because Zelensky has really messed things up. So he really didn't handle things smartly here. He was on the defensive. He wasn't open, he had his hands clenched, and his body language just wasn't smart at all. And Donald Trump later pointed out that Zelensky isn't really grateful because he's gotten so many billions here and is still holding his hand out. At some point, you have to say, okay, enough is enough, and maybe you should say thank you too.
I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on. I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. Then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire.
You can really see that Trump wants to expose things here. He's saying, hey, you have to be grateful. And secondly, it is good that all of this is happening live in front of the camera, including how Zelensky is behaving here, how Big Babwa is behaving here again, and so on. Right now, he's kind of at a disadvantage because if the US stops providing support, he's going to have some really big problems. That's what Donald Trump is saying too. And accordingly, it's very interesting to see something like this in public now. Because normally, a conversation like this doesn't happen in public. It usually takes place behind closed doors. And the best part is that it will come later when we look at Elon Musk, what Elon Musk is planning here and how Elon Musk wants to uncover even more things. And of course, it would be a real shock if all the scandals that happened in the Ukraine war came to light. I mean, that's always the case in a war situation. There's always a lot of corruption, scandals, and so on. But often, it just doesn't get investigated. Because that's just not what they want. But now it looks like this is what they want. And that could have massive repercussions later on, not just for the US, but also for the stability of the US dollar, and then later on for the stability of Bitcoin as well. After the meeting was over, Donald Trump fired off a tweet. And that really went viral, where he summed everything up again and also shared his opinion on the matter. After he basically kicked Zelensky out of the White House, he also said, hey, Zelensky isn't even ready to engage in a discussion or anything like that. More or less, that's how he put it. It definitely means that we had a very significant meeting at the White House. A lot has been learned that would never have been understood without a conversation under such pressure and fire. It's amazing what emotions can bring to light. And I've noticed that President Zelensky isn't ready for peace when America is involved, because he believes that our involvement gives him a big advantage in the negotiations. I don't want an advantage, I want peace. He has represented the United States of America in its disrespected the esteemed Oval Office. He can come back when he's ready for peace. And that's a pretty bold statement that Donald Trump doesn't want to make any deals here. Doesn't want to prolong things, doesn't want to keep the wars going. Instead, he actually wants peace. And I mean, we don't need to debate that peace is always the best option in the long run. For an economy, yeah, peace is the best thing in the long run. Sure, in the short term, it can always happen that if you go to war, some war stocks might go up or that certain currencies might devalue. And that can actually be good again in some ways. For any risk assets like gold or Bitcoin or something like that. Sorry, I don't mean risk assets here, I mean safe havens. That means everything classified as a safe haven, like gold, tends to go up in a war situation. We have seen it. Bitcoin has often sold off when we have had war situations because there is nothing globally yet. Generally, it's seen as a safe haven, but in the long run, everyone actually wants peace. In the long run, it's also the best for the global financial markets, including Bitcoin. And it's already a very important realization that we can take away from this, that Zelensky apparently, I mean, I'm not a war expert. Everyone's becoming a war expert here. But it looks like Zelensky doesn't want a deal. Donald Trump wants a deal, but Zelensky isn't really willing to go along with it. And Donald Trump is talking about peace. Zelensky isn't really talking about peace, but let's see what's going on now because Elon Musk has chimed in on this. Elon Musk is saying now, it's time to find out what really happened to the hundreds of billions of dollars sent to Ukraine. So what really happened to the money that was sent here to Ukraine? Were tanks bought with it? Were weapons purchased? Or did all this perhaps end up in Zelensky's pocket? Did it end up in the pockets of some really, really corrupt people? Because we've seen this so many times in the past, where there was some kind of war financing or something like that going on. But in the end, some war profiteers benefited from it, and some people just pocketed the money. And we also have to know one thing, wars are always money-making machines. Some people also say that the Ukraine war is like the biggest money laundering scheme in the whole world. I mean, that's a claim that's always kind of tricky to make. That's why I don't want to officially confirm that right now. But I mean, that's a conspiracy theory. Currently, we now see whether Donald Trump and Elon Musk could expose this conspiracy theory if the Department of Government Efficiency actually comes out with it. That there's massive corruption going on here. It also says here, President Trump is considering ending all U.S. aid for Ukraine after kicking Zelensky out of the White House. So here, all the U.S. aid stories are also coming to an end from Donald Trump's side. And we have to watch this very closely now because this could really lead to even more unrest here if, on the one hand, Zelensky completely blocks things. And now, all of a sudden, Zelensky also has the USA as his enemy. Or maybe Zelensky gives in. And then we actually have a deal. And then we might see some peace negotiations or something like that. I mean, I have no idea. It's really, really hard to gauge the whole situation. Like I said, now everyone suddenly becomes a peace and war expert. But feel free to write in the comments how you assess the current situation. Is it more bullish for the financial markets or is it more bearish for the financial markets? And what do you all think about the current situation? Oh, and what I also wanted to say is that the massive egos are colliding here. Zelensky, Trump, Vance, and so on. And it's pretty clear that there are going to be some fireworks. Yeah. And Trump also won't make any compromises. He really wants to be stubborn. What compromises to make? He just wants to push through his stubbornness, and so on. That means both sides are also somewhat unwilling to compromise. So one person really wants this, and the other person really wants that. And in the end, nothing happened, and both are just stuck. But now we really need to see what's happening with BlackRock, because this is another massive blow that's happening. Because it's now being said that BlackRock is adding its Bitcoin ETF to model portfolios for the first time. Also, BlackRock is adding its own ETFs to model portfolios. Here it is. For the first time in history, yeah, it goes further. According to Bloomberg, BlackRock is adding an allocation of 1 to 2% to selected target allocation portfolios. $48 billion IBIT, Bitcoin ETF. This step only makes up a small part of the model portfolio business, but it could increase demand for IBIT as model portfolios continue to gain importance. So that means, if in the future any investor buys one of these model portfolios, there will simply be 1 to 2% Bitcoin included. So you can think of a model portfolio as these pre-made types of funds or portfolios, I guess you could say. I'm not sure which term is better. Those are just different mixes, different stocks, different indices. Now I also hold a Bitcoin BlackRock ETF. And then you'll always have a 1 to 2% allocation in the future. And that is also the big slogan. And that's also the big thesis that a lot of people are bringing up. So in the future, it's going to be the case that if you have any funds, whether it's a NASDAQ, an S&P 500, or even selected model portfolios or any investment funds, it's going to be standard to have that 1 to 2% Bitcoin allocation. And yeah, it might just be a few billion that are flowing in here, but a few billion is already very, very important for the Bitcoin market. And in addition, it is just another sign that BlackRock is saying, hey, no, we don't just want the Bitcoin ETF, but we want to keep expanding our offerings. We want to expand our offerings even more, and we see that BlackRock is not just adding their Bitcoin ETFs to the model portfolios, but I believe they're also adding 3 or 4 others. They've also added Bitcoin ETFs to that. So we see that BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF offerings are continuously increasing. That means they're not just offering their clients Bitcoin ETFs, but now they're also offering special portfolios, special funds. And they include all of them here, Bitcoin ETFs. And that's a super hyper bullish sign. And the timing is exciting here too, because we are somehow crashing up here at the moment. That means the Bitcoin price is going down, the market is crashing down. But we see that BlackRock here because you are convinced of Bitcoin, because many now also have doubts, okay, BlackRock is no longer convinced of Bitcoin. Can that still even be the case, given how far we've fallen? But that's a really, really good sign. That's exactly the same with Michael Saylor, or when, for example, big players are also buying the dips here. We've seen it time and again that the big institutions are buying the dips. So we can clearly see, hey, these aren't weak hands. These are strong hands that really understand you have to look at this from a long-term perspective. Over 5 years, over 10 years. And BlackRock, as it looks here, is a big player that's assessing the whole thing from a long-term perspective. And that's another positive sign for Bitcoin. And if you're feeling bullish on Bitcoin right now, I'm going to drop a link for you down below. 21 Bitcoin, how you can easily, safely, simply buy Bitcoin. With the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. And now there's an absolute special for you all. I was here in El Salvador at the ultra epic waterfalls. You can go ahead and give me a rating from 1 to 10, or just say 1 to 21. 21 hyper bullish and 1 is just bad. Go ahead and drop a rating on what you think about my hyper bullish jump. Honestly, would you jump in? Feel like bad. Woohoo. Are you ready? Boom. Awesome experience. Unfortunately, I lost all my Bitcoin during the waterfall jump. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think about that. See you later. Peace out.